Today we're talking about Perfume. It is a German series on Netflix at the moment. It's a Netflix original that is very loosely based on the 1984 novel of the same name by German author Patrick Süskind. I'm going to get back to that, but based is probably too strong a word. It's not even really based on it. There's also a 2006 film of the same name. That was directed by German director Tom Tykwer, was nonetheless an English language film. So in a way, this is the first all-German version we've had in film or series form. Before we go any further, I do need to be honest with you and let you know that the book, is my favourite book of all time. It has been since I read it for the first time when I was 16, I think. I've reread it since then, and I've just reread it again. It's still brilliant. It's still the best rendition of the story out of the three versions that there are. I also really like the 2006 film. I think it's a good version of this book. I think it comes about as close to capturing the essence of this book as a film could come. It's got really nice music by the director himself. That's just full disclosure, because when I found out that Netflix was remaking it, or actually I found out that they had remade it, I was actually a bit pissed, to be honest, because I just think they do it too much. They just take a perfectly decent film, remake it into a series, and it kind of borders on content farming for my liking. I just needed to be open with you on that to tell you where I'm coming at this review from. I've got to say, I was pleasantly surprised. I had expected to hate this series, and I was quite surprised at how much I liked it. Don't get me wrong, there are things that need work, big time. Like, there are some big flaws in this series, but as I said, I expected to hate it, and I didn't hate it that much. Furthermore, I don't think it does anything particularly bad for the book. I need to mention the linguistic aspects of this series, because this one's not all that straightforward. If you watch it in the original language, then it will be in German, with your choice of subtitles, of course. But no matter what you have the language set to, there are like 2 or 3 scenes in French. The reason I mention that is because this is one of the key differences between the series and the book. Even though the book is by a German author and was originally published in German and then beautifully translated into English by John E. Woods, the setting for the book is actually Paris and then later other parts of France, 18th century France. The setting for this series is modern day Germany, so that's the first big key difference we have there. The others follow on from that, which is that none of the characters are in common, like literally none. The book follows one protagonist, sort of anti-protagonist, and is about that guy, and he's this French guy. The series doesn't do that at all. In fact, the series is so removed from the book that the characters in the series read the book and watch the movie. To start off with things I didn't like about this series, I feel like they could have done without the source material, so Patrick Süskind's Perfume. They could have changed just a few things, and they would have had an entirely different series that I think would have been better. It seems strange to me that they took the novel, took the name of it, and then changed it so much that you basically needed to write an original series anyway, and all that I think the novel really did for it was confuse the whole story and make it a less enjoyable series. The characters in this are a bit of a mixed bag for me. I was attached to maybe 2 or 3 of them, and that's enough, but I wasn't really attached. And furthermore, I don't feel like the writers actually knew their own characters very well. So for example, we get these flashbacks to the late 80s or early 90s about them as teenagers, and it's supposed to be about how they became the adults they are today, but they seem very different people 30 years ago to the people they are now. So that doesn't make a particularly great deal of sense, and we never actually see that arc. We never see them change into the people they are now. Additionally, and this is more of a technical point, but some of the actors look quite different to the modern day counterpart adults, and that can be very confusing. Sometimes you're really not sure who it is you're watching. That is inflamed by the fact that they don't act like the same characters in the two worlds. The whole 80s flashback thing I didn't rate. I thought it was unnecessary and actually a bit annoying. Another thing is there were just too many characters. The whole show is under 6 hours, so you don't need that many characters. Probably 2 of them could have been cut completely, and the only difference it would have made is to give us more time with the relevant characters. And the last thing I'll say about the characters is that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they do things that are entirely out of line with what they would want and who they are as characters. So I'm talking in the modern day, not in the flashbacks, but they just do things that don't make sense with anything except for seemingly what the writers want for the next episode. I promise I am going to get to some things I liked, but for now we're still talking about things I didn't like. And another thing was that we don't feel the murders in this series. There's a string of murders, but we don't feel any of them because we don't know the victims, and we don't really feel a sense of impending doom from any of the characters or any of the suspects. We don't really suspect anyone. I think it's trying to get that from the book because that's kind of one of the inner themes of the book. But the book is an entirely different setup. We know the murderer in the book. We're following the murderer. With this series, if you hadn't read the book, I can see that you might think it's basically just a string of assorted scenes with almost nothing to do with each other. The last negative thing is sort of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. The music. Mostly it was good. Atmospheric, fitting, didn't feel copy and paste. I liked it. So it is therefore such a shame that who knows how many people greenlit the decision to include the most random, nonsensical, completely out of left field English voiceover singing that I've ever heard. It's bizarre, and Netflix is getting into a habit of this. They'll have a good score throughout the whole series, and then they'll just have these random bits of music that make everything crap. It doesn't make any sense. This is me watching the series. Faded memories from the past. Faded memories from the past. That's part of the score? I didn't even make those lyrics up. That's what it actually says. Faded memories from the past. Memories are always from the past. That's what makes them memories. Whatever it is, it's garbage. Netflix needs to fire whoever is making these decisions. That's that. I've calmed down now, and we can finally talk about the good thing that is in Perfume, and it is a very good thing. It is the most beautifully shot series I've ever seen, full stop. I was trying to think of other series which would compare, and I was coming up short. Just every shot in this is very, very well thought out. Even if it's not aesthetically beautiful, it is at the very least mathematically pleasing. And I think that's really fitting for a series in which one of the themes is our perceptions of beauty and how we can feel beauty and how we can perceive beauty even when we don't know we're perceiving it. So if you got to the end of this series and thought, that was kind of bad, but I sort of liked it, I would argue that that is actually the beautiful cinematography having its desired effect on you. Do be warned though, some of the scenes, beautiful as they may be, are extremely macabre. We're not really talking violence because you don't normally see what actually happens, but we're talking extremely gory images of corpses and stuff. Well, not even gory, but just a bit disturbing. Don't watch this with a kid. To me, it's just a shame that they didn't go one way or the other with this series. They could have done a beautiful, dark, modern, serial killer, very taut, very character-based series, or they could have done a full rendition of the book and just done it completely with basically every scene that's in the book, because you would have time in a whole series. With this level of cinematography, I feel like either would have been extremely watchable. But what we have instead is this sort of gorgeous mess. And I would probably really recommend this series to people if you first read the book. Not just because you will ruin the book for yourself by watching the series, whereas you won't do it the other way round, but also because at times the book seems almost like assumed knowledge when you watch the series. This series ends in such a way that it looks like there may be a season 2, and knowing Netflix, there probably will be, and as long as it's lensed by this guy, he's Polish, I can't say his name, I will happily watch it. Guys, as I said, overall, I didn't mind this series, but then I've read the book 3 times. Let me know what you thought of it, particularly if you haven't read the book, but if you haven't, I would recommend that you go and do that for sure. Also, feel free to comment and let me know series that I should review, particularly foreign ones. Thank you to the people who have subscribed and or commented recently. It does really help me to feel encouraged and motivated to make more of these for you guys. So if you're new here, please do that. Wherever you are and whatever language you speak, I hope you really enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.